Hi everyone, glad to see you back on the channel. Today we are going to take a deep and careful look at what is unfolding around Pokrovsk, why Ukraine's recent strikes there matter so much, and how these developments are creating cascading losses for Russia that go far beyond a single battlefield. This is not just another localized clash. What is happening in this area reflects broader shifts in momentum, logistics, morale, and strategic control that could shape the next phase of the war. Pokrovsk has long been a critical node in eastern Ukraine, not because it is a flashy or symbolic city, but because of what it connects. It sits near major road and rail arteries that Russia relies on to move troops, ammunition, fuel, and equipment deeper into contested areas. When Ukraine applies pressure here, it is effectively squeezing a vital artery rather than striking a single limb. This is why recent Ukrainian actions around Pokrovsk are being described as especially damaging to Russian forces. Over the past weeks, Ukrainian units have intensified strikes on Russian positions, supply routes, and rear area assets around Pokrovsk. These strikes are not random or impulsive. They reflect careful targeting, intelligence, driven planning, and a clear understanding of Russian vulnerabilities. Instead of attempting costly frontal assaults, Ukraine has focused on dismantling the systems that keep Russian forces functioning in the field. One of the most important elements of these strikes has been the targeting of logistics. Russian military operations depend heavily on large, centralized supply chains. Ammunition depots, fuel storage sites, repair facilities, and transport hubs are essential for sustaining even basic defensive operations. In the Pokrovsk area, Ukrainian strikes have repeatedly hit these support elements, forcing Russian units to operate with shortages and delays. When logistics begin to fail, the consequences ripple outward quickly. Units that lack ammunition become hesitant to engage. Vehicles without fuel are immobilized. Damaged equipment that cannot be repaired is abandoned. Even trained soldiers become ineffective if the system around them collapses. This is exactly the situation Ukrainian strikes are aiming to create, and evidence suggests they are succeeding. Another key factor is the disruption of command and control. Russian forces around Pokrovsk rely on communication nodes and command posts to coordinate movements and respond to Ukrainian actions. Ukrainian strikes have increasingly targeted these nodes, creating confusion and fragmentation. When commanders cannot communicate reliably with their units, decision-making slows and coordination breaks down. This breakdown in command and control has direct battlefield consequences. Russian units become isolated from one another, unable to support neighboring positions or respond quickly to breakthroughs. This makes them vulnerable not only to further strikes, but also to psychological pressure, as soldiers feel cut off and unsupported. Reports of abandoned positions and disorganized withdrawals in the area suggest this dynamic is already taking hold. The terrain around Pokrovsk also plays a significant role. The area includes open fields, urban pockets, and critical road junctions. Ukrainian forces have demonstrated an ability to exploit this terrain by striking from multiple directions and using mobility to their advantage. Rather than holding static positions, they are forcing Russian units to constantly react, stretching already strained resources. Russia's losses in this context are not limited to destroyed vehicles or damaged infrastructure. There is also a significant loss of time and initiative. Every day spent trying to stabilize the situation around Pokrovsk is a day Russia cannot use to advance elsewhere or reinforce other vulnerable sectors. Ukraine, meanwhile, gains the strategic advantage of dictating the pace and location of engagement. Morale is another critical dimension of what is unfolding. For Russian soldiers on the ground, repeated strikes on rear areas create a sense that nowhere is safe. when even supply depots and command posts are under threat, confidence in the overall mission erodes. This psychological pressure can be just as damaging as physical losses, leading to decreased cohesion and increased desertions or refusals to fight. On the Ukrainian side, success around Pokrovsk has the opposite effect. Effective strikes and visible Russian losses boost morale and reinforce confidence in leadership and strategy. Soldiers who see that their actions are producing tangible results are more likely to maintain discipline and resilience, even under difficult conditions. International observers are paying close attention to these developments. Pokrovsk serves as a case study in how Ukraine has adapted its approach over time. Early in the war, Ukrainian forces often focused on defensive actions and localized counterattacks. Now, they are demonstrating a more mature operational style that integrates intelligence, precision strikes, and strategic objectives. This evolution has not gone unnoticed by Russia, but responding effectively has proven difficult. Russia's military structure is still heavily centralized, making it slow to adapt to rapidly changing conditions on the ground. Attempts to reinforce the Pokrovsk area have reportedly been hampered by the same logistical vulnerabilities that Ukrainian strikes are exploiting. Another important aspect is the economic cost to Russia. Every destroyed vehicle, every lost ammunition depot, and every disrupted supply line represents not just a tactical loss, but a financial one. Replacing modern military equipment is expensive, and sanctions have made it harder for Russia to replenish advanced systems quickly. Losses around Pokrovsk therefore compound existing economic pressures. The strain on Russian industry should not be underestimated. While Russia can produce large quantities of basic equipment, the quality and sophistication of replacements often lag behind what is lost. This gradual degradation reduces the overall effectiveness of Russian forces over time, even if troop numbers remain high. There is also a political dimension to Russia's losses in Pokrovsk. Setbacks in this area undermine official narratives of steady progress and control. When news of disrupted logistics and abandoned positions emerges, it challenges the image of strength that Russian leadership seeks to project both domestically and internationally. For Ukraine, success in Pokrovsk strengthens its position in diplomatic and military discussions with allies. Demonstrating effective use of supplied equipment and intelligence reinforces arguments for continued support. Allies are more likely to invest in a partner that shows it can translate assistance into meaningful battlefield results. The broader strategic implications are significant. If Ukraine can maintain pressure around Pokrovsk and similar logistical hubs, it can force Russia into a reactive posture across multiple fronts. This disperses Russian resources and reduces their ability to concentrate force, a key principle of effective military operations. It is important to note that Ukraine's approach here is not about capturing territory for its own sake. The primary objective appears to be weakening Russia's ability to sustain operations. Territory gained as a result of this pressure is a secondary benefit rather than the main goal. This reflects a strategic mindset focused on long-term outcomes rather than short-term headlines. As the situation continues to evolve, Russia faces difficult choices. It can attempt to reinforce Pokrovsk, diverting resources from other areas, or accept ongoing losses and risk a deeper collapse of its logistical network. Neither option is attractive, and both carry significant risks. Ukraine, meanwhile, must balance its offensive actions with the need to conserve resources and protect its own forces. Precision strikes and targeted operations help achieve this balance, allowing Ukraine to impose costs on Russia without overextending itself. Looking ahead, the battle around Pokrovsk could influence operations across eastern Ukraine. If Russian logistics remain under pressure, their ability to hold or advance in other contested areas will be compromised. This could open opportunities for Ukraine elsewhere, even without large-scale offensives. The information war also plays a role. Footage and reports of successful strikes circulate quickly, shaping perceptions both inside Ukraine and abroad. Russia's attempts to control the narrative are increasingly challenged by visible evidence of setbacks, making it harder to maintain public support for the war. It is also worth considering the human cost behind these developments. While strategic analysis often focuses on equipment and positions, the reality on the ground involves soldiers and civilians caught in the middle. Strikes on logistics hubs are designed to minimize direct harm to civilians, but the broader conflict still takes a heavy toll on communities in and around Pokrovsk. Ukraine's leadership has emphasized the importance of protecting civilian lives while pursuing military objectives. This is another factor influencing targeting decisions and operational planning. By focusing on military infrastructure rather than population centers, Ukraine aims to weaken Russian forces while limiting civilian suffering. Russia's losses in Pokrovsk also highlight the limits of sheer manpower. Even with large numbers of troops, an army cannot function effectively without reliable supply, coordination, and morale. Ukraine's strategy exploits this reality, turning Russia's structural weaknesses into liabilities. The concept of losing everything in this context does not mean Russia has been completely defeated in Pokrovsk. Rather, it refers to the cumulative loss of effectiveness, initiative, and confidence. When these elements are stripped away, even a numerically strong force can find itself unable to achieve meaningful objectives. This is why Pokrovsk matters beyond its geographic location. It represents a test of whether Russia can adapt to a more dynamic and precision-focused style of warfare. So far, the evidence suggests that adaptation has been slow and costly. Ukraine's ability to strike hard in this area also reflects improved integration between different branches of its forces. Intelligence, artillery, drones, and maneuver units are working in closer coordination than earlier in the war. This synergy amplifies the impact of each individual strike. Drones, in particular, have played a crucial role in identifying targets and assessing damage. Real-time information allows Ukrainian forces to adjust quickly, striking again if necessary or shifting focus to new vulnerabilities. This flexibility contrasts sharply with Russia's more rigid operational approach. As Russian losses accumulate, there is also the risk of escalation in response. Russia may attempt to compensate for setbacks around Pokrovsk with increased strikes elsewhere. However, such actions carry their own risks and may further strain already limited resources. For now, the situation around Pokrovsk illustrates a broader trend in the war. Ukraine is increasingly shaping the battlefield on its own terms, forcing Russia to react rather than act. This shift in initiative is one of the most important indicators of changing dynamics. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel.